All right, it is the B Block Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Scott. I appreciate you for joining me. Hope everybody had a good Christmas. Enjoyed the holidays with your family, whoever it is that you spend your holiday time with. Got a few things that I want to get to today. Don't want to take up too much time, but it was a busy day in sports, and that's part of what I actually want to get into. Some of this like social media conflict I'm seeing between like NBA Twitter, if you will, and NFL Twitter, or people who prefer the NFL over the NBA or the NBA over the NFL, as the NBA and NFL for the last few years now battle for Christmas Day supremacy, if you will. And I'm not even sure if that's exactly what's happening, if that's exactly what's going on. I know how it could appear that way, how it looks that way, and maybe even from a bottom line perspective, it is that way. But I want to get into that a little bit. But first, I want to give some reaction and some thoughts. I have a few thoughts, I should say, on the Christmas Day NBA games. Because look, I'm a spoiler alert here. That is how I spent the majority of my sports watching portion of Christmas Day, right? Like most of it was family, most of it was, a lot of the stuff that Christmas entails, but a lot of it was also sports, and it was almost exclusively the NBA. We can actually start though with the Rockets. Start with the Rockets, man, because the last time that we talked about them, we were trying to figure out what the hell is going on with this team exactly. How is it that they lost 4 of the last 5? How they were 4-6 for the month of December going into that game against the Lakers on Christmas Day. They had just dropped the game against the Clippers a couple of days before. They had dropped games against the Sacramento Kings, against the New Orleans Pelicans, and it was just really like starting to look like borderline embarrassing. Okay, I think that's actually even a fair way to characterize it based off of the quality of team that the Rockets are and the quality of opponents that they were losing to and the way that they were losing. But this game, to their credit, it was perfect. Would be putting a little bit too much sauce on it, but I thought it was as close to perfect as you could expect or ask for. It was about as good as you could reasonably ask for them to play from the standpoint of they got it done on both ends of the floor and they did it from start to finish. Like this was a game where the Rockets were leading for pretty much the entire game. There was never a moment where it felt like they weren't in control of the game, and they were in control of the game because of a lot of things that they do well, a lot of the things that are true to their identity. And this was a lot of the issue that I had with the Rockets in these games that they were losing. In the games against the Kings, specifically, I would say against the Kings and the Clippers there toward the end, but even the Pelicans game where it's like, okay, how is it's one thing, I've been saying this, it's one thing to have issues creating offense or getting into your sets or not, the things that reflect what you're missing. Like you don't have a true and traditional experienced point guard out there. So it makes sense that y'all are trying to figure things out offensively and sometimes maybe it looks clunky. But why is it that you don't play defense? Why is it that you lack focus against teams? Why you're not, even Ime Udoka, the head coach, talked about this, like having to do a better job of getting them up against teams that are lesser or getting them up for games against lesser opponents. What's that about? And this was a game where I said, okay, maybe they're not getting up for these lesser opponents, but these good ones, these that are looking like true contenders. I know the Lakers were reeling to a certain extent, and I guess still are now after this loss, but they were reeling going into this game. Like you gotta at the very least show that you belong with the teams that by and large look like they belong. The Lakers were getting Luka back. The Rockets got Dorian Finney-Smith for the very first time. We'll talk about that in just a second. Tari Eason playing his second game back, if I'm not mistaken, and played a critical role in this game in guarding Luka. They had Tari Eason guarding Luka and Amin Thompson guarding Austin Reeves in this game. And what a luxury to have in that case, where normally most teams have really one guy that they feel comfortable guarding either one of those two, and so they got to pick their best defender and put them on them. And the Rockets had the luxury of starting 2 high-level defenders. And if Dorian Finney-Smith was healthy, the Lakers know this, if he was healthy and really ready to go, they would have had 3 legitimate options to throw at those 2 guys. And of course, LeBron is out there, and you got to deal with him to some degree as well still. So the point being, though, the Rockets did their thing on both ends of the floor. All of the superstars showed up to some degree, and the supporting cast did as well, right? Like you had pretty good games from Kevin Durant and Amin Thompson. I think they led you. And then, of course, Alvin Sengun had his double-double, had a really big rebound in the game. And Jabari Smith Jr. in his role. Reed Shepherd off the bench in his role. I mentioned Tari Eason starting in this game and talking some pretty, I think, was pretty vehement after the game about wanting to be a starter on this team. You know, it's a contract year for him. His name's been, he's got the health issues or the availability issues, if you will. And I think his name is probably the one that's most frequently been in trade talks. This is somebody who is going to get paid a lot of money at some point, but his future is very much in the air. Yeah, this dude wants to start and show as much as he possibly can on the basketball floor. And man, was he showing? Man, did y'all see Tari? Who was it that tried to strip him? But then he ended up kind of doing a little spin move around the back, and then the nice little pass to, it was either KD or Min. But y'all know it was one of the highlights. Y'all remember the one that I'm talking about earlier in the game. Tari Eason, I thought looked really good in this game to be in his second game back. And Dorian Finney-Smith is on a pitch count, but that's just, to me, it's just a good sign that he was even out there. The fact that Dorian Finney-Smith could even play for you in this game was newsworthy and noteworthy in my view. So, yeah, just a really good game. And I thought the big difference was, because you got to think about this with the Rockets. They don't shoot a lot of threes. They somehow have one of the better offenses in basketball and shoot the fewest threes in basketball, which is hard to do in today's day and age. But this was a perfect example of how that could be. Okay, they shot fewer threes than the Lakers. Let me make sure I have this number right. They shot 6 fewer threes than the Lakers. Around about in a worse percentage, around about the same percentage, but a worse percentage, 6 fewer threes, and around about the same percentage from the field overall. 53% for the Rockets, 51% for the Lakers. The difference was they took 13 more shots than the Lakers, 13 more field goal attempts than the Lakers in this game, and 8 more free throws, and also shot better from the free throw line. 15 to 19 from the free throw line. So it's like the threes didn't even really matter as much. It took just enough of them, but not a lot by any stretch, and did not make a lot of them either. But they were really good from the field, and they had extra possessions and scored more or took more shots because of both their defense and their like outstanding rebounding advantage, which is the other thing that the Rockets do pretty much better than anybody. And it's something that whenever they get out rebounded by a team or by a bad team, or like in the Kings game, when the best rebounding team in the Rockets got out rebounded by the league's worst rebounding team in the Kings, that's the type of stuff that you should be critical of and should be weary of when you're trying to set expectations for this team. Now we know the Lakers have their own defensive issues. Okay. So you do want to keep that in mind. And I thought that was on display in this game. Rockets pretty much able to have their way with them for all of the game. But the story of it to me was really the defense and the rebounding on the Rockets part. That was it. 17 offensive rebounds to the Lakers 7. And 48 total rebounds to the Lakers 25. So good job by the Rockets. I said that going into this game, my whole thing was the Rockets needed to play with a certain level of desperation that I did not feel needed to be applied to the game before this little stretch here. Like it would have just been a cool Christmas Day game between two really cool teams, right? One team is the Rockets with KD on it. It's kind of a fresh look. They got some young emerging stars. The other team got Luka, LeBron, Austin Reeves having an incredible year. And, you know, Luka was coming back after missing a few games. And so should have just been that. But now both of these teams had to come in here looking shady. And the Rockets were the ones on the right side of history in this game. So credit to them and shout out to them for, not embarrassing the city of Houston on Christmas Day in front of a national audience the way the Texans did last year in front of Beyonce, God, and the whole world. Y'all remember that. I know we all trying to forget it, trying to pretend like it never happened, but it did. It definitely did. The other, and that is only the big Christmas Day reaction because we're Rocket centric, because I'm a Houston dude. But the big Christmas Day takeaway had to be Jokic, right? Like we don't even have to play around about it. We don't have to joke and pretend like there was anything bigger than that. Jokic putting up 56, 16, and 15 is so far beyond comprehension. And for somebody that's been putting up video game numbers for over half a decade now, for somebody that's got 3 MVPs, won a championship, like we should not be surprised or in awe by anything that he does functionally on the basketball court, like any one particular feat on the basketball court, or any kind of stat line or slash line he can put up there for. And yet, 50, 50 plus, 15 plus, and 15 for your triple double on Christmas Day in an overtime win. It's just so far beyond anything that we could have written down or imagined. We've never seen it before. And Jokic, fittingly, is the first person to do it, the first guy to do it, because he is just that great. He is just that good. And I've been saying it every time that he comes up, that his name comes up, or that there's a discussion about him. We should recognize him as the best player in basketball until proven otherwise. Somebody else can win the MVP if we get fatigue or feel like they're having a year that needs to be recognized, like Shea did last year. Or if that's the type of season that you're feeling like he's having again this year. I don't know how you argue against this guy, though. Especially if the Nuggets are going to be competitive the way it looks like they are. This is unprecedented shit that we're seeing right now from this guy, Nikola Jokic. And I'm amazed that I can continue to marvel at somebody after all of this time, after all of what we've already seen. And to me, it says a lot when you can have a night, Jokic can have a night that makes Anthony Edwards' 44-point game on a Christmas just seem like an afterthought. We ain't talking about Anthony Davis. We ain't talking about him. We're talking about this dude, Nikola Jokic, and where he goes in the pantheon. I mean, he is flirting with being like one of the top 10, 8 to 10 players to ever play the game. Certainly the best player of his era. I don't know what you want to call his era exactly. Kind of bleeds into Steph's, kind of bleeds into with LeBron and KD, right? He's younger than those guys, but has played enough seasons with those guys, I think, or against those guys, competing against those guys to be considered a peer. So some tough conversations, man. Like I'm in the camp of aesthetically, or like who's the guy that you rock with. I'm a Michael Jordan guy. But even with that, I acknowledge that LeBron James is the greatest basketball player to ever play. Both from the standpoint of just physically being able to do things that other guys could not do, like a combination of things at a particular level that other guys before him I didn't think could do, including Michael Jordan. And then the accomplishments on top of it. I just think it's hard to argue with data and your eye test. Like a lot of people will go with one or the other. Like, man, the data says this, I'm gonna go with that. Or my eye test says this, and I'm gonna go with that. I'm telling you now, the empirical numbers and resume heavily favors LeBron James, and the eye test, I'm sorry, for me as well, does. And I am somebody who's just old enough to remember Michael Jordan and to understand. I just told you I would prefer. I prefer Michael Jordan. I wish Michael Jordan was still the GOAT. Damn it, it's LeBron. And even saying that, I don't want to overreact to no Christmas Day stat line, but we talking about a career here that again has included 3 MVPs, could be another one this year. Stat lines like 50 plus 15 plus 15. A championship already, a chance to win one. Like the Nuggets are a legitimate title contender. I know people want to glaze the Thunder, and there's a couple of really cute stories in the East that we can talk about in a second, but this is wild. What this guy is doing is wild. So the Nuggets, the Rockets just beat them the other day, but they're scary. This is a scary team. Like I said, it's wild that you can have a night like that and we just kind of shrug our shoulders at Anthony Edwards' 44-point game, which brings me to another one of my thoughts from the Christmas Day game. I do wonder, or the Christmas Day slate, I should say, I do wonder if the Minnesota Timberwolves are the most underrated team in basketball right now. And maybe I'm not plugged in enough to say that without it coming across as a straw man. Maybe there's plenty of people out here that's trying to tell the world and preach the gospel about the Minnesota Timberwolves. But out of all of the teams that could reasonably win the championship this year, out of all of the teams that could reasonably go to and win the finals this year, it seems like Minnesota is talked about the least of those teams. Who would you say those teams are? Right? You would say that they are primarily in the Western Conference. You'd say they're Oklahoma City, they're Denver, they're Houston, they're San Antonio, maybe the Lakers you'll throw in there. All right, so that's 5 teams in the West. But then Minnesota, to me, I feel like got to be right there in that mix with those teams after Oklahoma City and Denver. Right? To me, there's a crowd of teams. Oklahoma City and Denver feel like the class of the West. And then these other teams between Houston, San Antonio, and Minnesota, and the Lakers, these 4 teams who feel like they're kind of jockeying for that third spot. And Minnesota is a team that I feel like, again, is the best team that nobody talks about, or that at least I don't hear anybody talk about. You look at their rating across the league or across the board, they're a top 10 defensive and offensive rating team. Nobody really talks about them like that. Anthony Edwards goes out there and scores 44 points on Christmas, but because they're playing arguably the greatest player of his generation. See, that's gonna cross over too, right? Because Jokic is a little bit older than Ant, but that's gonna be the same era. Playing against it just happened to go against the best player of his generation. That's tough. And little rivalry there too, right? A little bit of one. Took them down a couple of years ago. So yeah, the Minnesota Timberwolves in my mind gotta be the best team, the closest team that could win a championship that nobody's talking about. That was my thought from that game, or at least from that slate. So speaking of the teams that can win a championship, does anybody actually think that there's a team in the East that could really win the championship? I kind of just brought this up a moment ago. Does anybody really think that there's a team in the Eastern Conference that could win a championship? Reasonable. Detroit and the Knicks, okay, the Pistons and the Knicks are the closest thing to it right now. Both teams are really good. Both teams have bona fide superstars on them leading them. The Knicks, you could argue, have 2. Both teams are easy to root for, right? They got guys that you want to root for and want to see do well. The young core over there in Detroit, and any team really led by a 6'2" and under guard like Jalen Brunson, what everything that team seems to be about. It's just kind of got like this blue collar feel to it. Cat just got engaged to Jordan Woods. Man, I don't know what it was taking brother so long to do that. I would have done that. I was telling somebody this the other day, man, I would have done the Jordan Woods thing immediately. If I was Cat, as soon as I got the sense that Jordan Woods liked me enough for me to lock it down, man, he must have just been waiting on the right moment. But congratulations to them. There's his championship as far as I'm concerned. He's a winner to me. He's a cat. You are for whatever it's worth. Carl Anthony Towns, a champion in my book, a champion in the eyes of the B Block podcast. So both teams easy to root for, Detroit and New York. But I don't think anyone in their right mind thinks either of them is beating OKC or Denver in a series. Y'all don't really think that, right? I don't really think that. I could be wrong, but I don't think that. Now, with Houston, San Antonio, Minnesota, the Lakers, I think it gets a lot more interesting if you're talking about going up against Detroit or the Knicks, one of those two teams. But I'd probably pick at least two of those teams over the Pistons or the Knicks, too. San Antonio and Houston, probably maybe even Minnesota. Oh, I don't know. Be tough. It's an interesting thought. But the point being, the East is like this fun. It's like this kind of fun league where there's some cool teams and some fun basketball to watch, but it feels like a path to nowhere. It feels like a path toward destruction. So I don't know what's happening with that. I would be happy for the Knicks if they were the Knicks and their fan base if they were able to get to the final, but can't see much happening beyond that. Not with the way the West is looking. I thought the Christmas Day slate really showed that, like really showed the difference, what they would be up against if that were to happen. So Dallas, Dallas officially in the transition period of this let's merge the old with the new. Officially in the transition period, the Mavs are of this becoming Cooper Flagg's team. Anthony Davis finding out later that he's going to miss some time, miss a few games. Um, it's just it's feeling like that's the end. And I guess that was another point too. Was you got Anthony Davis in this groin strain. You had Austin Reeves leave the Rockets Lakers game with a calf. That's kind of a downer. You don't want to see guys leave, but with specifically with Anthony Davis throwing the Mavericks, it kind of reminds me of that year that Luka and Dirk played together. I don't think that Anthony Davis is retiring, and Lord knows what Kyrie Irving is going to do. But the thought of blending the old with the new seems like a short-lived idea. Seems like a short-lived thought if we're being realistic about it. And I think that after Flag, I don't know what the market is for Anthony Davis. Making trades in the NBA now is a lot more complicated than it used to be, and a lot more complicated than it should be. And I don't want to bore you with like extensive trade talk about the Mavs, but just to say overall, and I think Charles Barkley was making this point on Inside the NBA, like I would talk about like next steps and starting to rip this thing down to the shreds after Cooper Flag, like starting with Cooper Flag, and then everybody else is just kind of what can we do with this? Klay Thompson is a nice piece, especially coming off the bench on a team that actually has real aspirations and real chances of doing something. This is not that. Anthony Davis could stay healthy. If Kyrie Irving were healthy, what that would do, along with what they got a lot of bits. All the bigs were healthy. And you bring that along with Cooper Flag. Now we got a different story. That ain't what they got. I think that it's time to start over in Dallas. Whatever starting over looks like. It's up for them. I know they fired Nico. Maybe that's a start. Maybe that's where it really started. But from here, it's time for a new era. This is the transition phase, but it's time for a new era. I don't really have a spectacular Warriors take other than to say that this is a play-in team at worst. I should have mentioned them maybe earlier, but to me, It feels like this is what the Warriors are going to be until Steph either shows, which I don't think he has yet, shows like a real decline. He's obviously an older man than he was, older than he was before, but he's still that dude, and they still know how to win, know how to play. And I just think it's a play-in team at worst, kind of like last year. The the Warriors are a play-in team at worst, and if they're healthy, it's probably the most scary play-in team of them all. I think Phoenix has got to be right there with them. But I would say I'd be a lot more worried about playing the Warriors if I was a team, a higher seed with conference finals aspirations. The Warriors would still bother me a little bit. Being honest with you, the Rockets have to play them. I think they're more equipped. They're more equipped to handle them now, but it would bother me. They still know how to play. They still know how to win. Newsflash: the Warriors know how to win. It's kind of insights you get on the B Block podcast. So, those are my NBA Christmas Day reactions and takeaways. Now that I gave you 25 minutes worth of that, I can keep the NFL Christmas Day reactions real short. Because how about this? I might have watched. How many games do they have? I don't even know. 5 NBA games. How many games did the NFL have? 3. I think I watched 4 to 7 snaps, maybe, of football. 4 to 7 snaps. It just didn't grab me. It didn't grab me at all. Even when I looked at the slate, because I was worried about this conflict. I'm not one of these just like, let's go NBA, fuck the NFL, and let's go NFL, fuck the NBA. I'm not that guy. I like me some football. I like me some basketball. And damn it, I like the idea of having all of these sports options to consume on a holiday, on a day where I ain't got, ideally, I don't have to do as much family stuff as I have to do. And I can really chill and relax and watch everything on multiple screens and not be bothered at all. That would be amazing to me. That's not reality, not for me. But I'm not one of these people. Like I have fun with the NBA. Christmas Day belongs to NBA, to the NBA kind of purity side of it, because I think in my heart of hearts believe that, and I wouldn't have probably had a problem with this if it had not been for last year and Christmas Day falling on a Wednesday, and it just feeling like the NBA or the NFL, I should say, was greedy about the shit. As the Texans got caught in the middle of that, playing 11 games or 3 games in 11 days. And it was dumb. It was ridiculous. And it was greedy. But I like the idea of having NFL games as an option to watch. I just wasn't interested in none of these games that they tried to peddle out there. They all kind of had their little rivalry connection. It's like Cowboys, Washington. That's supposed to be Thanksgiving. If you grew up if you grew up in the 90s or before that, man, that's supposed to be Thanksgiving. Christmas. After both of them are irrelevant at this point, one of them not even playing their quarterback no more. I want to watch that for. We got these good NBA games on. And then Detroit and Minnesota. What's going on there? Detroit's not going anywhere. One of the disappointments of the league this year. Minnesota's got a good defense, but I could not tell you who played quarterback for them on Christmas. Could not tell you. No idea what's going on over there. Not interested either. Not, not even a little bit. And then the last one, was it Chiefs Broncos? Broncos got everything wrapped up. The Chiefs season been over for once Patrick Mahomes. I think even before Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL, it was looking like the Chiefs season was going to be over. Now there's really no reason to watch that. So I just went through all of that just to say there wasn't really a lot to take away because I didn't watch it. There wasn't really anything to watch for me. But this is what I want to say about the conflict, the whole NFL versus NBA conflict that's out there, or the social media chatter that's about it. we don't have to. The beauty in all of it is that we do have more options now. Like we can, if you're offended by the greed from the sports leagues, from the streaming services, from everybody that's trying to put their hand in your pocket and get you to pay more for what seems like less. Cut the cord, got rid of cable. Cable seems to be antiquated, but now you got 7 to 8 different streaming services, and you can't keep up with what's where. And if it confuses you more than anything, smart TVs and all of that, if that confuses you and having to pay a subscription for all of this is like frustrating. And if you just straight up can't afford it and want to be able to turn on your TV and watch your sports like you used to back in the day, I get it. I get it. But this is the world that we live in. And if you are able to find smart ways to bundle up or to choose wisely what subscriptions you get and when, or what's worth it to you and what's not. I got all the subscriptions. Netflix, Prime, Peacock, Apple TV. You name it. I got it. And I'm gonna be on it. Fubo, Fire Stick, YouTube. You're not gonna miss me. Not if I want to watch it. You're not gonna miss me. Not everybody's able to do that. I understand. I respect that. But the cool part about it, though, as opposed to just having the channels, or as opposed to just having the streaming services, to me, the cool part about it is that you get the variety and the options of all of it. I feel like everybody, it doesn't have to necessarily be an either or unless you're making that financial decision. And I guess that would be a tough decision to make. Which one do you care about more? I feel like most people would be able to make that decision though. Like for example, I stopped by some family's house on Christmas Day after having been watching the NBA. I was driving most of the time, but I had NBA games on in the car. I had to basically had the games Bluetooth in the car whole day. And toward the end of the afternoon, I stopped by a family member's house, and they got on first time I'd seen it. They got on one of the Netflix games. They got Minnesota and Detroit out there. It's like, I'll bet. It dawned on me as I walked in there, this is a football household. This is not a house of people that would just be sitting up watching basketball. They're not like me. They're not like some of us who love the NBA. They like football. This is a football family. So it's cool that on Christmas Day, not just Thanksgiving, but on Christmas Day, as this family gathers, they have an option that suits them, that fits them. All of them people in that house, I can tell you for sure, can't afford no net or don't have no Netflix. I ain't gonna say what they can afford. I'm not in their pockets like that. But I can assure you, not everybody in that house has Netflix, but somebody did. Somebody did. And they was able to watch the game as a family. And I thought, oh, you know what? Let me check out what's going on with Detroit, Minnesota. Watched about 3 or 4 plays, didn't see nothing that really interests me. It was time for me to say my goodbyes, and I left. And I continued to watch basketball, re-Bluetooth the basketball, went home and finished watching the basketball, and it was all good. No sweat off nobody's back. It was all good. And they had what was available to them, or they had available what they wanted, and I had available what I wanted, and everybody ate good. I feel like everybody ate good. It's some greedy shit that the NFL is doing. And it's greedy what the streaming services are doing. And if you want to take a stand, I respect it. But man, you tell you, man, you're gonna get lost in this world. This is the new world order. I'll admit, even I could be better organized with my subscription. But this is how it works. And to me, greed aside, capitalism aside, which welcome to America, welcome to the real world, all that shit aside, it's cool to have the NFL and the NBA available to you. I don't think it's cool to be playing on Wednesday. See, that's the thing. Again, the Thursday night games are bad enough, but they've at least trained our brains enough, mind bleeped us enough to be used to those, to have accepted the Thursday night games. So when they play on a Thursday, that feel a little different. Do they need to play 3 games on Thursday? Hell no, they don't. That's greedy as hell. But on a Thursday is one thing. Last year on a Wednesday felt out of pocket because you had dudes playing 3 games in 11 days and shit like that. That's the part that bothers me more than whatever ratings they're gonna take over, whatever the idea is. Whatever the idea is, like it's cool. It's cool. Find what you want. That's the beauty of all of it. And you don't have to watch what you don't want to watch. I saw Sean Pendergast mentioning this, and I was in for Sean Pendergast the day before. So so Christmas Eve, I did the morning show with Seth Payne, was in for Sean Pendergast. I saw him on social media saying, I think it was quote tweeting somebody that was like complaining about the NFL taking over Christmas. And I've made some snarky comments myself, I'm not gonna lie. But Sean's point was like, nobody's making you watch it. Nobody's making you watch it. Like, well, what I mean, what are you, like, some kind of shield for the NBA? Are you like worried about the NBA? NBA, I think, is going fine. Well, I think financially the NBA is going fine. The NBA, I think, has bigger problems on its hands than the NFL taking over Christmas. Just say that. The NBA, it could be a problem, but I think on the list of problems that the NBA has, the NFL playing Christmas Day games is not at the top. It's not at the top. But yeah, um, I enjoy the variety. I enjoy the options. I think that part of it is cool. Get it how you live. You know what I'm talking about? All right. So last thing I want to talk about is why I believe that the Texans winning streak, and they've won 7 straight games. Credit to them. We've done that on the podcast already. Like, salute to the Texans for staying the course and proving every doubter, including myself, wrong. Because boy, did it not look pretty early on. Boy, did it look like they was going to waste a season in which the AFC appeared to be wide the hell open. And it's still that. I think it's still that. The Texans are one of the scarier teams. They're going to go in the playoffs. I don't think that they're going to clinch in this game. I don't think that's going to happen. They've won their 10th game for a 3rd season in a row. And I do think that they'll get their 11th win. I don't think it's going to be against Chargers in LA. And that's for a few reasons. First off, this is just a really good football team. Like, even if they didn't have some of the excuses that I'm about to throw out there for the Texans as to why they're not going to be able to win this game, even if none of that existed, the Chargers are just really good, man. Like, I think it is worth acknowledging that this is the best defense aside from the Broncos that the Texans are going to face all year. And it's the closest, other than the Broncos, the closest in terms of production and ability and talent. It's the closest to their own defense that they're going to see. This is going to be a defensive battle, or at least has the makings of a defensive battle. A shootout will surprise me, will shock me, despite the fact that both teams got quarterbacks that are built for shootouts. They even got some weapons that are built to help accompany them in shootouts. But I don't see this one being that. You got the number 1 defense against the number 3 total defense. Number 1 defense being the Texans, number 3 being the Chargers. And the thing about the Chargers, man, their defense does pretty much everything well. Everything, they do everything well. They got a good pass defense. They got a good rushing defense. They don't allow a whole lot of points. They get to the quarterback, so they rush the quarterback. They get sacks. They're good on 3rd down. They're good in the red zone. They're good at taking the football away. Like, they're good at every element of defense. No real, true, and obvious weaknesses from top to bottom with this Chargers defense. That's the scary part about them. Now, going against a Texans offense that, while it has improved and while it has been impressive at times, I think it has also shown that it can get a bit stagnant. And to be fair about it, I think this is beyond being fair about it. It's been inconsistent. Saw that against the Raiders. Just recently here against the Raiders. Inconsistent. So, how do you feel about the offense that you just watched kind of barely make it against the Raiders? Needed help from the defense. Going up against a Chargers team whose defense is objectively a lot better than the Raiders. Then you factor in that Texans have won 7 straight. My memory served me straight. Their right tackle in all of these games that they've won here over this stretch has been Trent Brown. Trent Brown is out. Ariante Ursary is injured and questionable. So you got one tackle that's been ruled out, and you got another tackle that's got a broke hand and had surgery earlier in the week. These questions. That creates a little bit of a predicament because I think Blake Fisher, for as much as they like to run that jumbo package, and for as much as they might like the look of the extra offensive lineman out there, whether it's to run the ball or to have an extra man in pass protection and kind of sacrifice that extra throwing option, pass catching option. I don't know about him on an island at left tackle with Khalil Mack playing in the game. I don't know about him on an island at right tackle and having Titus Howard play left tackle. I don't like either one of those options. I don't love it. I'm rooting for the young man, and he seems like a nice enough dude. Draft pick, you want it to work out. You want it to be better than you want the results to be better than what they have been over the last year with Blake Fisher. And you want the narrative, you love for the narrative to change, to think that, eventually, because you did this this Band-Aid approach with signing Cam Robinson and bringing in Trent Brown, and Titus Howard is still around, still in the contract. But you drafted tackles, one right, one left, in back-to-back years in the second round in Blake Fisher and Ariante Ursary. Ideally, these are your tackles of the future. This is your tackle combination of the future. Ideally, it's not looking that way. I don't love it. Don't love how it feels. Don't love how it looks. But rooting for Blake Fisher to prove us wrong. I got to be real with y'all. I don't see it. I think that streak ends against the Chargers. Now they get it back together, I think, and beat old man Phillip Rivers last game of the regular season at NRG Stadium. I think they get in as a wild card. Jacksonville wins the division, and we rock. Go on the road, but we rock. Defense travels. They play the type of game that's built for the road anyway. Play keep away, don't turn the ball over, run the football, play lights out defense. That's a team that can win on the road. Maybe not a team that gives you a whole lot of confidence in 2025 going into 2026, or gives you a whole lot of confidence that they could win the championship or go to the AFC Championship for the first time in franchise history. Maybe it's not that. Well, we've seen this formula before. A defensive centric type of team that just makes just enough plays on offense to make something shake. The Texans could be that. But I think that winning streak does end in Los Angeles. Looking forward to covering it. I'll be back on here to talk about the game over the weekend. But I tell you what, don't expect anything real quick after the game, because I'm going to be hosting the pregame show on Mix 96.5 Houston. That's an FM station, by the way, if y'all didn't know. Going to be hosting the Kinder's Texas Bowl pregame show, the official pregame show. Myself, Chris Partee on Mix 96.5. I'm sure we're going to have guests on both sides. It's LSU and U of H. I'm sure we're going to have guests on both sides throughout the show. That's going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Time, leading you right into the game with Brett Dolan and Sean Bajani. So we're really excited about that, man. It's going to be really cool to do. Doing it on an FM station, so it's going to be clearer and easy to hear. Tell people about that. Check your boy out. Leading an official pregame show for a bowl game. I've never done that. I'm not going to say that was ever really on like the bucket list per se. And I'm pretty sure I'm being asked just as really more as a favor more than anything. Not because they're like, man, we think this guy would be so great on the pregame show. But I do think that there's a level of trust and belief that I can make this work, myself and Chris Partee. So I'm encouraging y'all to encourage us by joining the show. We're joining in on the show, listening in on the show, telling people about the show. We're going to have a real good time. If you missed that, I'll also be on In the Loop all week, Monday through Thursday, actually. Most of the week with Reggie, and then I believe with Reginald Atatula, that is, right? Reginald Atatula from In the Loop, 10 to 2 Central Time, from Monday to Wednesday. And on Thursday, I think I'm on with Patrick Creighton. So if you miss the Texas Bowl pregame show, make sure you check me out on In the Loop next week. Until next time, man. Y'all be good.